In a rotten, blood-soaked island kingdom, there once was a queen by the name of Catherine Parr.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're discussing the life of Katherine Parr, the sixth and final wife of King Henry VIII.
I'm the survivor, Catherine Parr. I bet you wanna know how I got this far.
Early life and learning. Katherine Parr was born in 1512, the eldest of Sir Thomas Parr and Maud Green's 3 surviving children. At the time of her birth, the Parr family had 2 homes, Kendal Castle in Westmoreland and a town home in the Blackfriars neighbourhood of London. Both parents worked in Henry VIII's court.
By the time of Catherine's birth, they were wealthy northern landowners and connected by marriage to some of the most prominent noble families in the north of England.
Thomas held different positions, including Master of the Guards and Comptroller to the King. Maud served as a lady-in-waiting to Queen Catherine of Aragon, Catherine Parr's godmother and, likely, namesake.
She is, if you will permit me, Highness, she is much as you were.
She will be a fine companion to the King of England.
After Thomas Parr died in 1517, Maud didn't remarry. She gave her children a noble education.
Maud Parr's household developed such a reputation for dedication to scholarship and learning that the parents of other noble and gentry families of her acquaintance often appealed to her to take in their children who needed to finish their educations.
Catherine grew to love learning and became fluent in multiple languages, including French, Latin, and Italian. In 1529, Maud arranged for Catherine to marry Sir Edward Burrough, though he passed away in the spring of 1533.
Earlier biographies have confused Catherine's first husband with his father, who was also named Edward. Thus, it has traditionally been supposed that Catherine's first marriage was to a much older man, which is not the case.
Lady Latimer. By the summer of 1534, Parr gained the title Lady Latimer when she married her second husband, John Neville, 3rd Baron Latimer, who was also her father's second cousin.
Catherine became only the second member of her family to marry into the English peerage, and there is evidence to suggest that they cared for one another and enjoyed a happy union.
In October 1536, at the beginning of the Pilgrimage of Grace, Lord Latimer was forced to join the Catholic rebels in the revolt against the English Reformation. However, some believe he was a willing conspirator. During his absence, Catherine and her stepchildren had to survive on their own, and were briefly held hostage in Snape Castle, their North Yorkshire home.
You must have been very frightened, my lady.
Well, at the time, sir, I was more frightened for my husband, for his safety and his sanity.
I hear that Lord Latimer is unwell.
Around 1542, Catherine began spending more time with her brother and sister, William Parr, 1st Marquess of Northampton, and Anne Parr, Countess of Pembroke. Neville died in 1543, leaving Catherine a wealthy widow and the guardian of stepdaughter Margaret. Catherine reacquainted herself with Lady Mary, Catherine of Aragon's daughter, and around February 1543, she was a regular among the household.
The king seems quite taken with Lady Latimer.
It's true. And we know that when he takes a fancy to a person or a thing, he usually goes the whole way.
At the time, she was romantically involved with Sir Thomas Seymour, brother of King Henry VIII's 3rd wife, Jane Seymour. However, once the king took notice of Catherine, she felt compelled to end her relationship with Sir Thomas and accept the king's marriage proposal.
Catherine could have refused Henry's offer, but it was pretty unthinkable. A proposal from the king was the equivalent of a royal command.
The queen who survived. Henry VIII and Catherine Parr married on July 12, 1543, making her the first to become both the Queen of England and Ireland. She initiated the reconciliation between the king and his daughters, Mary and Elizabeth, daughter of Anne Boleyn. Parr helped Henry pass the Third Succession Act of 1543, which reinstated his daughters to the line of succession behind Edward, their half-brother who later became King Edward VI.
I would like to invite them more often to court, not only for my sake, but so that they might more often see their father.
You have my permission.
In addition to being a caring stepmother, Catherine Parr was an accomplished author and scholar. On April 25, 1544, she anonymously published her first book, Psalms or Prayers, an English translation of Bishop John Fisher's Latin work.
The Queen's progress was rapid, and soon she was ready to exchange the role of pupil for that of teacher.
Her second text, Prayers or Meditations, was published in June 1545 under her own name, the first British queen to do so. She published her third book, Lamentation of a Sinner, in November 1547.
This, however, is completely different. This is Catherine's spiritual autobiography.
From July to September 1544, Parr temporarily ruled as regent while King Henry VIII was away campaigning in France. She became known for being outspoken, and in 1546, Stephen Gardiner, the Bishop of Winchester, and Lord Wriothesley, the Lord Chancellor, suspected her of having radical Protestant views.
But of course, to be a Protestant in Henry VIII's England was to be a heretic and to be subject to prosecution by the church courts and possibly burning, which was the penalty for heresy. So the stakes were very, very high.
The two officials tried to have her arrested for heresy, but Parr discovered the arrest warrant, and instead of further pushing her ideas for religious reform, she reaffirmed her devotion to Henry, effectively saving her own life.
Religious reform was her life, but she knew she couldn't carry out that reform if she went to the executioner's block.
Good night.
So she hid her true beliefs and survived to fight another day.
The Dowager Queen. After years of struggling with his health, Henry VIII died on January 28, 1547. Days later, the coronation of her stepson, Edward VI, was celebrated and she retired from the royal court.
Already, Catherine's thoughts had turned back to life before Henry.
About 4 months after Henry's death, Parr rekindled her romance with Thomas Seymour, 1st Baron Seymour of Sudeley. The two secretly married in May 1547, but when it finally became public knowledge, the union was a scandal, as expected.
You cannot hold the royal jewels, now you are no longer a royal.
I can well believe semantics are your lifeblood, sir. Fetch the king's will, and we shall check the wording of the whole thing. See that it is being obeyed to the letter.
Catherine became pregnant in 1548, around the same time her husband began an affair with Lady Elizabeth, his wife's stepdaughter. As a result, Elizabeth was sent away in May 1548 from their Chelsea home.
The way the world thinks of you, what it says, is precious. It can protect you or it can end you. Please, think of that next time.
A month later, Catherine and Lady Jane Grey moved to Sudeley Castle in Gloucestershire, England. Then, on August 30th, she gave birth to her only child, a daughter, Mary Seymour.
Perhaps no one will understand my marriage to you.
I certainly don't.
But I speak to you and you answer.
As was common back then with childbirth, she suffered from a postpartum bacterial infection, or childbed fever, and died on September 5th. Her funeral was held 2 days later.
A mass for Katherine Parr.
She was my friend once.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. In the media. While she's been portrayed in series such as The Tudors and Becoming Elizabeth, Catherine Parr is seemingly the lesser known of Henry VIII's 6 wives. But the strong-willed, intelligent woman is at the center of Karim Ainuz's film Firebrand, starring Alicia Vikander in the lead role opposite Jude Law's ailing king.
The 5 wives who came before her all met untimely ends. But Catherine's fate was to change the kingdom forever.
Based on Elizabeth Fremantle's Queen's Gambit, the historical drama follows the latter years of their tumultuous marriage. The film premiered at the 76th Cannes Film Festival in May 2023 and is set to hit theaters on June 14th, 2024.
I think we're both bound for it. I'm ready. Are you?
Are you going to check out Firebrand? Let us know in the comments below.
You have to go. If they find you here,
We would have to have their head cut off.
I'm sure you would come up with something much more creative.
Sometimes we think you know us better than we know ourselves.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.